All right. You guys asked for it.
It's about time.
Hello and welcome. For those new to my channel, welcome. For those returning, welcome back. This is stage 4 of FRR Tour World Tour. I've seen it both ways in the official literature, so don't know which way I should call it. But we are in Scotland today in the Breakfast Crits and Grits. We are doing nearly 2 laps of this stage, and I've got 5 sprint segments to contend with.
Big deal.
Now, the breakaway, or the Brea'k KOM, which is the sprint segment for the purpose of this race, we go around it 7 times. And in the 7 times, I have to do my best to get my fastest time possible, but ultimately get a faster time than my competition. So I was looking at, thankfully, my competition is not in the United States, so they're able to race a little bit earlier times than me. And so I was able to see what they raced, going through those sprints and the PRs that they set. And oh boy, they are a handful of seconds in terms of a handful of seconds faster than the best I've ever done on this course. So I am on the NV78s because I feel like I'm going to need it for the Clyde Kicker and the Brea'k, which are going to be suited for those wheels. So I ditched the zips today.
Big mistake.
And so I got bumped yesterday I was in first place for a brief second, and then got bumped down to 4th.
Loser!
Which I'm okay with, because that just means I need to try harder. And then looking at the guys that dethroned me or dismantled me, so to speak, they're sprinting at over 1200 watts. And one of my direct competitors, who he and I are very close in terms of like the sprint timing, so how quickly we cross the line, he's sprinting at almost 1400 watts. He gets up to 1399 on his sprints. I'm not going to give him that 1 watt. And so super strong competitors. And so I know I've got my work cut out for me. The only difference between them and me is they sprint at a higher RPM. So they're in the 100 and above RPM, where I'm in the 80s to maybe 90. So that is my main focus for today, is adjusting my sprint tactics, which really I won't be able to do that on the Clyde Kicker. It's such a steep climb. But for the champion sprint, that I should be able to knock out a higher wattage, high speed. And then same with the Brea'k. So here we go, a few seconds left, and just ready for this next round of torture. Again, we have almost 2 laps. We finish on the Brea'k almost all the way through the 2nd lap. And so it is going to be a killer stage. Oh, Tammy's in here. 18 seconds. You know what? Since I got a little bit to the lead in, I'm going to finish this song. Because it is time.
Bring on the next pain in the ass.
Okay, so this is how today's stage went. I got dropped about 5 seconds in, which felt like the scene from The Lion King where Mufasa leaves the franchise. And then I catch back on for a few seconds, thinking, okay, maybe I can get to the start of the Brea'k or sorry, not the start of the Brea'k, the start of the Segura climb. And I will, catch up on the climb and then hold on to the group as I, get over the top and keep going. But that is not at all what happened today. And so once I got done with the climb, I basically was on my own until we got through the different sprint segments. And as we got into the area of the Brea'k, I not only was dropped by my category, I was dropped by the category after me and the category after them. So that's a good summary of how today went. So I'm going to skip all of that and just show you why I decided to switch to the DT Swiss disc wheels halfway through the race.
All right, you guys asked for it. Those who want to see me sprint on the DT Swiss, finally get to see whether or not I can perform better. And so the metric I'm going to use to keep them is whether or not I do better on the Clyde and the Brea'k. If I can do better, then I'll keep the wheels for the remainder of the stages that call for it.
All right, so as we approach the Segura climb, we start this segment here and got a couple people. If you look at my previous time, it was 2:05.7. And so that's what I'm looking for right now going up the Segura. And as we were starting to climb, I gotta say it felt better. It did feel like I was holding this, pace very well and keeping with this small group very well again. But we will see as I cross the line what my actual time is this time around.
About the same time as before. But that did feel a little easier. Not gonna lie. This part obviously will feel easier.
So now let's actually jump forward to the Clyde kicker. And so as I start to approach the Clyde, I'm cruising about the same speed, 31 kilometers an hour, 30 kilometers an hour. So the right-hand side is the disc wheels. The left-hand side is the NV78s. And so looking at the approach, I'm starting to spin up. So what I did on the second time around, I started to spin up a little bit more ahead of time to see if I can get into a higher RPM. And as I approached the start, I got into a little bit better speed, although with the disc I was going a little bit lower RPM than I wanted to. But as you can see, I was pushing it a little bit harder, especially as we start to approach this climb. I get into, the 800 watts on both sides, but a little bit higher on the DT Swiss disc wheels. But for the most part, they're just about the same. Not too different, which is a good thing. But ultimately, I end up completing the Clyde kicker at 28.8 with the disc wheels. And now as we approach the champion sprint, same thing. Try to keep my power about the same, but I did launch a little bit later with the disc wheels, which meant I could push my power a little bit further. And so as I approached the end of the champion sprint here, just did my best to keep on my power and keep spinning my legs. And so I ended up crossing the line. I couldn't quite tell. So as I went back and watched the footage, I could tell that I crossed the line at the exact same time, 12:61, which I knew the champion sprint wasn't going to be too different, especially since there wasn't much of an incline at the end of that sprint. So moving on to the Brea'k breakaway, as I start to approach, I do have a couple people on the front on the disc wheel side, but I end up passing them pretty quickly. I didn't want them to be a factor. And again, I do my best to push up the power as much as I can. And I did get a little bit higher power for a little bit longer on the second time around. So I know that became a factor when it came to my sprinting. And so as I just kept going, I really did my best to just stay as strong as I can. And so as I'm approaching the line, just giving it all I've got, knowing that this is the last opportunity for me to do better. And as I cross the line, sure enough, I crossed the line 2 seconds faster with the disc wheels than with the NB 7/8. Now, having looked at this footage, I feel like the biggest difference between the two was my watts, more so than the disc itself. But again, on the decline, I did feel better with the disc. I did feel smoother on the climb. So, you know, I'm going to keep trying the disc, and we'll see how that goes. As I finished this last sprint, I was absolutely exhausted and really just could not give any more. So, all right, so you tell me what you think, which wheels were the better wheels. As I crossed the line in 21st place, I believe. Yeah, 21st place. Holding, did good on my 1 minute power, 6 watts per kilogram. Not my absolute best, but right up there with my absolute best. And again, my sprinting, you know, my 15-second power, 11.1 or 11.5 watts per kilogram. Again, good, you know, good work. I did finish a lot later than everybody else in my category, and so I know that I'm going to drop down significantly on the GC standings, but we'll see how we end up with the green jersey. Hopefully that was enough of an effort. Again, you know, looking at the race footage, seeing that my times were near identical, my power was near identical, but on the disc wheels, I did end up pushing a little bit harder, a little bit stronger on the sprints. So that has a big factor into why I got better times, even though my times weren't that, you know, a whole heap better. But even those couple seconds are going to make a difference when it comes to the points. So again, let me know if you think the disc wheels were the right choice. I'm sure I will be giving it a try again. Obviously for tomorrow's stage, which is ITT, I will be riding the disc wheels since it's mostly flat, and then the rooftop climb, which is not really a hard climb at all. It's similar to the Segura in terms of, you know, elevation and effort. So I will catch you guys on the next race. Take care. Guys, Miguel from that thing you just watched. If you know where that reference is from, please leave it down in the comments below. One of my favorite channels. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. Watch videos, playlists, whichever pop up. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I hope to see you next time.